We're going back to the 90s again, folks, and talking about a perfect movie, Dazed and Confused.
She was a hip lady, man.
90s were a dumpster fire, and that's why we've decided to take that brand and bring movies into it. Also, we just like talking about movies from the 90s. It's a classic film, for those of you who don't know, in the 90s. It evoked a lot of nostalgia for the 70s, which is hilarious because writer-director Richard Linklater intended for Dazed and Confused to be an anti-nostalgia film, according to him by his own words, aiming to show how the 1970s actually sucked for teenagers, not realizing that the 90s also sucked for teenagers.
This is the entire 1990s?
Yes.
I'm Bridget Phetasy, and this is your Dumpster Fire, 90s edition. Welcome to Dumpster Fire, where we make burgers out of your sacred cows. We premiere new episodes every Tuesday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Please join us in the chat. And if you want to keep track of everything we do, the best way to do that is to go to Phetasy.com to see all the content we're churning out, which is a lot. And a lot of you say too much.
Too many notes, Your Majesty.
Exactly. Very well put. Too many notes.
Dazed and Confused came out in 1993. For those of you who have never seen it, I'll give you a quick rundown. It's a coming-of-age film following a group of rowdy teenagers in Austin, Texas, celebrating the last day of high school in 1976. The graduating class, they go off to a popular pool hall, and they join an impromptu keg party, and the incoming freshmen try to avoid being hazed by the seniors, most notably sadistic bully Fred O'Banion, played by Ben Affleck.
Y'all ready to bust some ass?
A young, uglier Ben Affleck.
It's probably before he got his teeth capped.
Yeah, he definitely got his teeth fixed. This movie came out in 1993, and I was a freshman in high school, actually, the year that this came out. I was also that girl. I had a best friend. Her name was Bridget. We were so much trouble together. We were totally those freshman girls that were partying with all the juniors and seniors, and we were always getting in trouble, the two Bridgets, and we were obsessed with smoking weed and therefore obsessed with this movie as well.
You got a joint? No, not on me, man. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
I didn't realize that it only made $8 million when it came out because it seemed huge to me because everybody I knew, all the stoners, were quoting it.
That's the leather, man.
We watched it on repeat. It was our favorite movie. And by the way, life wasn't really that different for us than it was for these teenagers in 1976. Style was better in 76, I would argue. The vinyl was better. We had CDs, but really life remained pretty much exactly the same as it's depicted in Dazed and Confused. And we would drive around and get in trouble and smoke weed, and we would pass each other and figure out what we were doing. And it was like nothing really that different. There was a little bit more lax gun laws in the Dazed and Confused movie because it took place in Texas in the 70s.
And the drinking age was 18.
And the drinking age was 18. Watching this movie as a 46-year-old mom is so wild because I watched it obsessively when I was 14 years old. We watched it so much. We used to have a drinking game because the young character, Mitch, who plays the freshman who's getting hazed, but he's kind of like brought in by the cool kids. He goes to the party, and he's really kind of the main character we follow, even though he's the worst actor in the whole film. He was always touching his face to the point that we made up a drinking game, the Mitch drinking game, where every time you touched his face, you had to drink, and you would be blacked out at the end of Dazed and Confused. I think there's one scene where you have to do like 8 or 9 shots. Like, I can't tell you how many parties I went to in the woods like that were exactly like that, where you just drove up and people brought their cars in and everybody would run when the cops came, and you would have one party that was supposed to be at someone's house, and then their parents would decide not to go out of town and you have to find another place. That feeling of getting beer for the first time when you buy it underage.
You're 18, right? Oh, yeah. Just graduated.
The way that was the one part where when he was walking with that swagger out of there, I have a visceral memory of buying my first 6-pack with my fake ID and getting away with it. It was like, I felt like the king of the world. It truly was. And it was way harder to get booze than it was to get drugs, especially weed. So I became a stoner at a pretty young age just because you could easily be a stoner in high school. It was a lot easier to come by drugs, any drugs, than it was to come by alcohol, because it was always like, how are we going to get it? Who's going to get it? Whose parents are we stealing from? And then filling up the bottle like they're not going to notice. We ended up just knowing every line of that movie by heart. And it is fun to watch now because you can see who the huge stars are even then. Like Matthew McConaughey, also an uglier Matthew McConaughey. This always reminds me of my favorite meme, you're not ugly, you're just poor.
Right.
He was a little bit weird looking. Something was off with his face, but
that was his first role.
But you can see he had so much. He just radiates star quality. He stole the whole movie, really. And all these other kids were good, but everybody remembers him from that movie. Even if you don't know Dazed and Confused, you probably have seen or heard McConaughey go, all right, all right, all right.
All right, all right, all right. How you doing? That's what I love about these high school girls, man. I get older, they stay the same age.
Famous, just iconic lines.
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
And Parker Posey was hilarious and amazing in that movie.
Get up! Get up! Up! Eric!
She was so good in that movie.
So good. And she had a very small role, too.
I'm going to make the next year of your life a living hell.
And Ben Affleck, even though he was the big bully asshole, he was also very memorable, and his star power came through the screen.
Oh, that's it. I fucking saw that, you little sack of shit. You two are fucking dead. You hear me? You're fucking dead.
But all the other characters like Mila Jovovich perfectly played her role. Her boyfriend, who was going to have the party, who's the drug dealing, kind of not talking that often stoner, he was perfect. Even Mitch, for his bad acting and awkwardness, perfectly played an awkward teenager at that age. And it just reminded me how awkward that age was back in my day when you lived in real life. There's so many funny things about that movie, like the fact that they do get shot at by an old man whose mailbox they destroyed.
Busted my mailbox, didn't you? Tampering with mailboxes is a felony offense.
Just go, man.
Nice and slow.
And they don't even talk about it. Like, it's not even, that stuff just kind of happens.
Like prank.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
They prank. They pay the consequences for it. They almost got shot by an old man who chased them down, and then they just go off in their day. If that happened now, it would be the only thing you're talking about at the party. They're already on to the next thing, smoking weed, climbing the moon tower. There was so much just wayward vandalism because you just got bored.
Shenanigans, and there weren't cameras everywhere.
And there weren't cameras everywhere.
Well, there was also Ben Affleck's character got a gun pulled on him, and he talked about it.
I don't think so, creep. Mom! Carl, get in the house.
Yeah, he was mad about that.
Oh, you didn't hear it, did you?
No.
What? Y'all didn't hear I got a shotgun pulled on my ass?
No way.
I swear to God.
Probably because it was a woman. And he was very angry. His character really was the kind of saddest character. He failed out of high school and he was going back as a senior again. And he did end up getting his in the end.
Remember me, you pig?
And even watching it now, there is so much self-awareness in the film that I did not pick up on as a 14-year-old child. You know, you just have the years of adulthood where even with the hazing, the guys are all sitting there watching the girls haze the other young freshman girls. And the nerdy dudes who are like, you know, it does seem like everyone in the town is behind this. They can get behind this and they're all on board and they're somehow all complicit, you know, and they're all like not against it. They're letting it happen.
That's what's fascinating, is the way not only the school, but the entire community seems to be supporting this, you know, or at least turn their heads. I mean, they apparently have permission to use the parking lot. Right. No parents seem to mind.
So there is this awareness that like these kids are getting hazed and everyone's like, whatever. There's this line at the very end that Pink says,
all I'm saying is that if I ever start referring to these as the best years of my life, remind me to kill myself.
They were certainly not the best years of my life. They were some of the worst, but they were also, looking back, it is like somewhat more of an innocent time just because we weren't all online. And we'll get more into this in the second segment, just like how the modern child cannot comprehend what that life was like. And you see this all the time, just kids being like, did parents really let their kids go out with no supervision? And we've all kind of bought into this sad, depressing Orwellian surveillance state. But one of the things I really want to point out, the difference between life in 1976 and 1993 when this movie came out was not that great. Technology hadn't kind of hit that hockey stick curve where it just started careening towards the singularity. It was still right at the curve. We were experiencing like the curve upward. And it was easy for us to try and imagine life in 1976 because that was the life we were still living. We were still partying like that. We were still vandalizing mailboxes. We were still making prank calls. Do you know what they took from a population of kids when you stopped giving them the ability to do prank calls? Now you have these kids trolling people online and shooting up schools. Maybe if you let them have prank calls and calling random people and making silly noises, you wouldn't have so many school shooters. Now, take the next 20 years, 93 to 2013, and now add 10 more years to that, 2023 to 93. We don't even live in the same world. We're not even the same species. And I realize this when I read Reddit comments from people who were born in young millennials and because older millennials are more, they do remember. But young millennials and Gen Z and now even Gen Alpha, when you read the Gen Z takes and young millennial takes on Dazed and Confused, it is like a different species. And we'll get to that when we come back. Before our next segment, don't forget to like, subscribe, touch my bells and buttons. Now I'm like touching my nose all the time like Mitch. Let's start a drinking game. And tell your friends about us. We hit 100,000, so thank you guys so much. We are figuring out how to shoot the Mexican weather report, and we will get it done in the next few weeks. Like I said, it will be done before 110,000 unless something randomly goes viral, which I have no control over. You have to stick around through the ad to see the weather report, guys. Sorry, them's the rules. You know what they didn't have in the 70s? The greatest underwear to ever grace the balls of man, Sheath underwear. My husband won't wear any other underwear now. He will only wear Sheath. They just had like ratty old boxers back then. It was not pretty. Their patented dual pouch system is revolutionary. It cradles your balls lovingly in their own pouch. And then there's a separate pouch for the genitalia. It keeps everything separate from the legs. So you're nice and comfortable and nothing's sticking together. And you're not looking like a ragtag ragamuffin in those old worn boxers. They're high quality. They can be worn as boxers or briefs. They're moisture wicking. They keep everything cool and separated. And they have comfortable materials. And everyone who wears them swears they'll never go back. There's also a women's line, which I love. I live in their sports bras and their booty shorts and also moisture wicking. Balance your pH so you stay fresh down there. The holidays are coming, and underwear are the greatest gift to give to people for the holidays because no one likes buying that shit for themselves. Go and buy the underwear of legends, Sheath underwear. Sheath.com. Use the promo code Dumpster to get 20% off your next order. That's Sheath.com, promo code Dumpster to get 20% off. Now let's check the weather with Ileana Padilla.
Y 31 grados centígrados. Ahora vamos a platicar acerca de la imagen de satélite. Como podemos ver, el Frente Frío número 62 se encuentra de manera estacionario y ha dejado de tener poder en la República Mexicana, pero aquí apreciamos este nuevo sistema frontal que poco a poco irá afectando a nuestro país, creando descensos en la temperatura.
Thank you, Ileana. One of my new favorite pastimes now that I'm addicted to Reddit is reading Reddit posts from kids who watch movies from the 90s and being totally unable to comprehend the culture completely. One of my favorites that I have to read verbatim. I've seen posts on here about people who just don't like the movie. I wouldn't say that, but I do think the upbeat music is an ironic choice that obscures the dark world the characters inhabit. They have nothing to do but drive aimlessly around and be destructive. Their lives aren't building to anything. The main characters are bullies and conformists, and they perpetuate the cycle of violence. Even the teachers are part of the system. But the only time this cycle is questioned is for a joke at the expense of the contextual weirdo coded gay character. People have compared it to American Graffiti, but that film embraces its more somber tone. Or to Superbad, but that film is actually fun and funny. People rewatch this movie, but I found it tough to get through. It brought up all the pain I remember from being a teenager. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for those times. I was both a bully and bullied. I grew up in a small town. I did drugs and went to the occasional party, although I didn't drive until after college. So I definitely relate to the setting and premise, but the film focuses on all the things about my small town that made me get out when I turned 18 and cut ties with most of the burnout townies I knew. Just utter hopelessness and myopia. I can't really understand why people look back on times like these with such rosy glasses. That's what the film seems to do, but I can't quite determine if it's genuine or ironic.
Well, this guy took it the way Linklater intended.
He did, actually. Ironically, it was meant to be ironic. The original poster graduated in 2011, which means that he was born when this movie came out. In 93.
Okay, the movie came out in 93. I was in 8th grade. I got my first email address my freshman or sophomore year of high school.
Email address like my senior year
So
of
it was
high
like
school.
a year or two later that I got my first one. So it was like, this movie was pre-email, you know?
The young mind cannot comprehend that driving was freedom.
Right.
It was like our gateway to the world. We didn't have cell phones. It's so funny because they're like, oh, these losers who are driving around doing nothing but like smoking weed and vandalizing stuff. It's like, oh, as opposed to sitting in my room staring at a screen, you're somehow trying to make yourself the better person in this instance. But also, that's all we had to do. You could only watch so much MTV before you just had to get the fuck out of the house. And that was what everybody did. And before we got into our cars, we were riding around on bikes. And getting your license, it's funny that he mentions that he didn't start driving until after he got out of college.
Right.
Because kids these days don't see any need to learn how to drive. And for us, driving was this sense of freedom. There were so many cars in this movie, and it was like literally just scenes of cars driving around. This was what we did. This was what everyone in America was pretty much doing all over the country for decades. The entire American experience for teenagers was somewhat similar to this. No matter where you were, it was like a shared culture that we all had. Even if you were in a city or if you were in the woods, you still, because I experienced this in cities and then we moved to the suburbs where we partied like this in the woods. So I experienced it in both urban and in rural environments. The thing I love about this movie is that it was completely diverse. It was dorks. Like, even the dorks get some ass in Dazed and Confused.
Sure is nice to pile on some old pancakes and syrup after a night of beer drinking, isn't it?
And it spanned all kinds of socioeconomics. I was like the kid from the wrong side of the tracks, hanging out with all the rich kids when I was on the East Coast as a teenager, and also when I was in a suburb in Minnesota where a lot of the kids were pretty wealthy and I was not. I was also the more well-to-do kid in a city, hanging out with kids who were in much rougher parts of the city. We all used to get together and hang out and do things. It didn't matter if you were rich or poor and a dork or a jock. Like, it may have been segregated at high school, but not in the partying world. It was very much like a mishmash of everyone. You don't understand, you guys. You have your phones. You can go into different worlds and countries, and you've got all this shit, and you can go into chats.
You can watch any piece of media you want at any time.
That was the other thing. You guys think we could just turn on the TV and put what we wanted on? No. If it was 5 to 8 o'clock, it was just the news on every channel. And who fucking wanted that shit?
Or you had to go to a movie in order to be able to see one, or else like rent one from Blockbuster.
Standing by! I'm coming! Oh, look, Wedding Crashers!
You couldn't just scroll through your endless options. YouTube didn't even exist. Another comment under the post was, I think how normalized the violence and hazing was disturbing. The fact that it was human nature to take pleasure in hurting and degrading others left a sour taste. I recognize that it's not a thing anymore, but it's unpleasant to examine why that was ever considered fun in the first place. What does that say about people? You are the school shooter generation, not us. And this started basically when the internet started becoming ubiquitous. When was Columbine? 99? That wasn't us, guys. You're trying to tell me that we're the violent ones? Maybe you all needed a swift kick in the ass. These kids think because they took their bullying online and stopped doing it in person that they got rid of bullying. But you're just doing it online. You didn't get rid of human nature. You didn't somehow exercise that part out of society. You guys are actually the generation, not only that's the school shooter generation, you're the generation responsible for cancel culture and mobs destroying people's lives online. You should have all had your asses beat with a paddle. Maybe if more of you had to confront things in real life instead of going online anonymously and spewing your shit and not having any consequences for whatever trolling you wanted to do, you wouldn't be so feckless in real life and also completely unable to grasp how this bullying was just a way for all of us to keep people in check. I got punched so many times when I was a kid. I got pushed into a locker. I had a girl slap me in the bathroom and I was bullied badly by this girl, but I'm not going to lie. I was running my mouth. I probably deserved it. I was definitely a feisty little broad and I would be the new chick in a school and everybody got bullied. I hate it when people are like, oh, you don't remember what it was like. I got bullied in my high school and it brought up traumatic. I went to 13 schools in 12 years or something crazy like that. I went to 3 8th grades. I don't want to hear a fucking thing about bullying from any of you pussies. Everybody gets bullied. Everybody got bullied in high school. Even the bullies got bullied by their drunk dads who were beating their asses at home.
My parents used to beat the living shit out of me, okay? And looking back on it, I'm glad they did, and I'm looking forward to beating the shit out of my kids, aren't you?
Don't you see? I'm not condoning bullying, but to act like somehow the bullying gene is gone, you're crazy.
Right.
You guys just took that shit online or became school shooters.
Because they don't interact with each other in real life.
Then you became inquisitors. Your generation literally became like the fucking inquisitors who were determining who could say what words. I don't want to hear it. I don't. It's laughable to me that you have absolutely no self-awareness about this. Give me a break. Bullying seems quaint compared to some of the shit you guys do. Revenge porn, all the like online bullying. How many stories of people killing themselves have we heard? None of this stopped. None of this stopped. It's even more sophisticated and fucked up now. I think when the consequences were in analog, you really felt them and you thought twice about running your mouth the next time when you were feeling feisty. Even in this movie, that guy gets like all amped up, and he goes and he confronts his bully, and then he gets his butt kicked. But, you know, he got something out of that. He felt like, I want to dance.
I want to dance.
He felt like he stood up for himself, and that meant something to him. And you can't do that. We've robbed people of the ability to do that for themselves. And I'm sorry that no one cared enough to paddle you in the ass. It is a good documentary into what the world used to be like.
Yeah, if you guys have suggestions for movies you want us to like talk about or go back and revisit, please drop them in the comments. All right, Phetasy News.
Phetasy News. If you love Dumpster Fire, the best thing you can do is become a paid supporter at Phetasy.com. You get the unedited version of this Dumpster Fire, and we leave a lot on the cutting room floor. You also get access to everything else we're doing, and as we mentioned, it's bottomless. We are off on Friday, but we'll be back on Tuesday the 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Thank you to everyone who helps make this possible. Thank you to Sheath for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you to all of you. We love you. We love doing these weird ones. Thank you, Maggie. And now to cleanse your palate, the internet is glorious.
My body is broken. You have to let me go.
Remember, life is absurd. Don't take yourself so damn seriously. Take the work seriously. Don't take yourself seriously. This has been your Dumpster Fire. I'm Bridget Phetasy. Now make me rich so I can make my movie. I got one.
And the unicorns dance while the world burns, world burns.